Hello everyone, welcome to the show that fights for freedom and democracy, the show that stands up for the left behind, the show that fights against fake news and the complacent establishment. Now let's talk about yesterday and what happened in UK Parliament. Obviously we had the first Saturday sitting in decades to sort out the Brexit situation. Boris Johnson brought back his new negotiated deal, but the Remainer MPs decided to block it again. So Oliver Letwin added an amendment that would have made everything difficult, so Boris Johnson pulled the vote before they even had the chance to do it. Now, as you remember, because of the Benn Surrender Act, Remainers had forced Boris Johnson as Prime Minister to send a letter to the European Union to ask for a Brexit extension. Now, Boris said that legally speaking, he said, yes, fine, I'll send a letter. But he also promised that he would not get an extension. The Prime Minister confirmed that the letter would be sent to Tusk today, and this was last night. And Donald Tusk has said that once he receives the letter, he will consult with the EU leaders on how to react. This may take a few days. That means no immediate response. This is unlike the last couple of times when the EU instantly said, yes, here's your extension, and Theresa May said, thank you very much. This is not the case this time, because the EU know that Boris doesn't want an extension, and the EU don't really want an extension if there's no actual certainty what the extension is for. So what did Boris Johnson actually do? Because he got around the Benn Act, finally. There have been a lot of theories on how he's going to be able to do that, and he's done it. He was supposed to send a letter, but no, he didn't send one letter. He didn't even send 2 letters. He sent 3 letters. Boris Johnson refuses to sign the Brexit delay letter. Now, the way he's done this is that there's one letter that's from Sir Tim Barrow, the ambassador of the United Kingdom, and that's signed, and that's basically a cover letter saying, hello, European Union, this is a letter on behalf of the UK government. It's not really, we don't really want to send this, but this is the Parliament forcing us. Here's the letter. And then the actual letter is basically a copy and paste of the text that Parliament had forced Boris Johnson to send. And interestingly enough, it's not actually signed. And then the actual third letter is a personal letter that Boris Johnson himself had written to Donald Tusk of the European Union. In this letter, Boris Johnson says that it was good to see you again at the European Council this week, where we agreed the historic new deal to permit the ordinary withdrawal of the United Kingdom from the European Union on the 31st of October. He goes on by saying that regrettably, Parliament missed the opportunity to inject momentum into the ratification process for the new withdrawal agreement. The UK permanent representative will therefore submit the request mandated by the EU later today. And again, he says that, I'm not sending it, someone else is sending it on my behalf, and I'm not signing it. He finishes the letter by saying that I have made clear since becoming Prime Minister and made clear to Parliament again today my view and the government's position that a further extension would damage the interests of the UK and our EU partners and the relationship between us. We must bring this process to a conclusion so that we can move to the next phase and build our new relationship on the foundations of our long history as neighbours and friends in this continent our peoples share. I am passionately committed to that endeavour. And government lawyers and advice from the Attorney General is that Johnson is complying with law, as the Benn Act forced him only to ask for delay, not to change his policy. Belief that they can apply the law in this narrow and specific way will enrage critics. Now, guess what's happened now? Remainers are back out, and guess where they're going? They're going back to the court. Court of Sessions in Edinburgh was already looking at this issue on Monday. And yes, we can expect campaigners to basically go back. And they are planning to do this. Joanna Cherry of the SNP has said that this is pathetic. Boris Johnson promised the Scottish court that he would comply with the Benn Act and not seek to frustrate it. It looks like he's breaking both promises. Fortunately, no need to raise new proceedings. Our existing case is back in court on Monday. Yeah, good luck with that, Joanna. Good luck. But all of this is actually the fault of Oliver Letwin, the Remainer MP. And this is the same guy who was behind the idea and pushed for the idea of the poll tax 30 years ago. The same guy who was also behind the Fix Them Parliament Act, the situation that's made it so difficult for us to even have a general election. And this is why the people will never forgive him. A lot of Brexiteer MPs, but also ordinary Brexiteers out there, are going to be blaming Remainers like Oliver Letwin, who are in the establishment and part of the swamp, who are basically making it difficult to deliver the will of the people. Although he's not the only one, because we have people like Alistair Campbell, Peter Mandelson, and the rest of the Remainer camp who are trying to find either legal ways or non-legal ways to do whatever they can to stop Brexit. Now, Boris Johnson also sent a letter to the Conservative Party and the MPs on the same night. I wrote to you on Friday to outline why our new deal allows this country to take back control, get Brexit done, and let the country move on. I've made clear that I do not want more delay. European leaders have made clear they do not want more delay. It is to my great regret that today the House has voted for more delay. The public want us to get Brexit done so the country can move on. The best thing for the United Kingdom and the European Union is for us to leave with this new deal on the 31st of October. I will not negotiate a delay with the European Union. I will tell the EU what I have told the British public for my 88 days as Prime Minister. Further delay is not a solution. That is why next week this government will introduce the legislation needed for us to leave the European Union with our Great New Deal on the 31st of October. And you know what the irony in the situation is? Oliver Letwin and Remainers, in their attempt to stop Brexit, they've just basically made no deal. More likely, literally. So if they continue this, because there's going to be another vote again on Monday or Tuesday in Parliament for Boris's New Deal with the legislation and everything, and if they want to block that, so obviously they have a lot of different amendments that they could add, Boris is going to pull the vote and we're going to leave without a deal. But what about the extension situation and the European Council? Now, before the vote, a lot of European leaders were hinting that, we're not going to give you an extension, maybe. And a lot of people saw it as a bluff to push a lot of moderate MPs to vote for the deal. But there's also a new trend that people think it might not be a bluff anymore. Once again, Macron, the French president, has said no to the extension. Leaders of the European countries and the EU itself have clarified this. Juncker said, I was ruling out any kind of prolongation. Macron said, I don't think new deadlines should be given. Varadkar said, it's a mistake to assume an extension is guaranteed. Bettel said, it's a choice between deal or no deal.
I will not negotiate a delay with the EU, and neither does the law compel me to do so. I will tell our friends and colleagues in the EU exactly what I have told everyone in the last 88 days that I've served as Prime Minister, that further delay would be bad for this country, bad for our European Union, and bad for democracy. Since I became Prime Minister, I've said we must get on and get Brexit done on October the 31st so that this country can move on. Mr. Speaker, that policy remains unchanged. No delays, and I will continue to do all I can to get Brexit done on October the 31st.
Now, what else can Remainers do? So, the deal's going to come back, and it looks like Boris actually has the numbers to pass this new deal and basically leave by the end of the month. And obviously this is not the final deal, so a lot of people are kind of freaking out thinking this is it, we're going to leave with this deal and it's a treaty and that's it. This is just a withdrawal agreement. The actual deal comes later, and whatever happens in this, if it's not perfect obviously, any flaws inside the actual treaty, once you sign the free trade agreement, the real deal afterwards, it can be dealt with. And that's actually up to the British public. They can vote for parties that have different agendas. If you really want to be part of the customs union, single market, freedom of movement, vote for Labour. Otherwise, if you want real Brexit, vote for the Conservatives or, any other party that would provide that platform. I don't know the manifestos just yet, so let's just wait and see. But in terms of the amendments, one of them is a second referendum. Keir Starmer of the Labour Party has confirmed that an amendment will be brought next week calling for a referendum on Boris Johnson's Brexit deal, and Labour will back it. Again, this is just silly because Boris said that, he's not going to do it. Which means, if you're going to add any amendment, he's going to pull the vote and he's just going to cancel the whole thing and leave without a deal. But the problem we have is that it's no longer just the Remainers who want to delay Brexit. The DUP, the party of Northern Ireland that have been pushing to leave the European Union at any cost, with a deal, without a deal, have now changed their mind. The DUP are now on board for a second EU referendum. An amendment for a second referendum will be tabled next week, and based on the Letwin amendment, parliamentary vote, it looks likely that they would win a parliamentary majority. Next is the Brexit Party's Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage is now defending the Benn Act, and no one knows what to believe anymore, because Nigel is now asking to delay Brexit instead of delivering it by the end of the month. This has caused a lot of issues because a number of the Brexit Party people are actually backing Boris Johnson's deal, and we've seen some resignations. James Bush tweeted, "I have resigned from the Brexit Party because I wish to support the PM's deal. I still prefer no deal, but Boris's deal is good enough." Now, Remainers, the DUP, Nigel and everyone else, the ordinary people out there across the country, they just want to leave. And they're sick and tired because they know that, even with an imperfect withdrawal agreement, there's always the next stage, and we could sort out the country, and we're going to be leaving end of the month anyway. And this is what people say.
They should vote to leave because the country voted to leave.
Simple as that.
Simple as that.
I believe 68% voted to leave. It's simple.
I says you'll be very happy if we see your Labour MP defying what he's been told to do by his party.
Well, you've got to ask yourself then, where do your loyalties lie? Do they lie with the party, or do they lie with the people that voted you in? And the people that voted you in, hence that's why you're getting big salaries as an MP, to vote represent the electorate.
So you think your local MP Labour MP should defy Jeremy Corbyn tomorrow?
Yes, he should, and say, look, that's it, we're getting it over and done with, we want to come out. Most of Barnsley want to come out anyway, so why would he not vote to come out? Simple, really, I would.
A deal, yes, in my opinion, just because then we can have something and at least plan with it, because if they keep changing from no deal to this deal, again, it makes businesses more confused and more annoyed of what they need.
Now, yesterday we were in Westminster trying to do a live stream and interviewing Remainers. We had a couple of issues, technical issues with the audio and the microphone, so I'm sorry about that. But a lot of Remainers go around saying that we are very peaceful, we are Democrats. In reality, this is a sort of behaviour we saw from them yesterday when Jacob Rees-Mogg, Andrea Leadsom and Michael Gove, who are all parts of the government, decided to, when they left Parliament after the vote, and this is how they treated them. First, Jacob Rees-Mogg. Next, Andrea Leadsom.
This was Andrea Leadsom a little earlier with a police escort leaving the Houses of Parliament. People shouting "shame on you" as she passed.
And finally, Michael Gove.
Sir, please.
Okay. He's a very experienced journalist, a very good journalist.
I don't need or want anybody stepping into my area.
Yes. Okay, let's just be careful.
I'm sorry I got in your way.
You're fine, we all support police.
I'm very aware of that, but you have to understand we're working in this environment these days.
Now, as we get closer to the Brexit deadline, no deal is actually becoming more likely, so it's going to be very, very interesting next week or so. But Remainers are trying their best to frustrate the deadline, so we're not going to give up just yet. In terms of the optimism, what we had was Boris Johnson's determination to actually do this. For once, we actually have a Prime Minister that, once he said he's going to do something, from his side, he's doing all his best. Even though, sometimes it's not perfect, but, he's just trying his best. Instead of compared to like Theresa May, who just said, oh, I was going to take you out at the end of March, but nah, let's just wait and see if we could do it again next time. But this doesn't mean that Remainers are not going to find ways. So, whether it's the second referendum or any other amendment, let's just try and make sure that doesn't happen. And at this point, I still have faith in the government to, find a way to block their blockage. So let's see how it goes. And for example, Ian Dawkins-Pitt has already said that President Macron has texted Downing Street and said that he wouldn't actually grant an extension anyway. But we're going to have more information on this at 8 p.m. tonight. If you're watching this before 8 p.m, we're going to have our regular Sunday live Q&As. So make sure you tune in if you have any questions to kind of clarify the situation, what happened yesterday and today. Feel free to join the live stream 8 p.m. UK time. And tomorrow we're going to see what happens in the Scottish court situation and when we're going to have the vote in Parliament. It's either going to be Monday or Tuesday. And as always, we're still going to prepare for our Brexit victory party / Brexit rally in case something bad happens. So everyone is preparing their Brexit t-shirts and everything. So if you want to get your own Brexit t-shirts, the link is in the description. There are also coffee mugs and phone cases and hats. Go check it out. If you want to follow me on social media to interact with me or to just keep up to date with what I rant on Twitter or Instagram, you find the details down here. As always, don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell next to it so you get notified when I release a new video. Videos come out every day at 5:45 p.m. and Sundays, obviously, we have live Q&As at 8 p.m. And I'm Tousi, and I'll see you at 8 p.m. on the live stream.